2 years, we the people have a chance to take out every single member of the House. But how do we do on that score? Not very well. And of course, what I'm advocating is that we will do a hell of a lot better if we get organized and united locally, politically, where we live, in our local Republican committees, however that works in your state. I know California doesn't really have precinct committees. I spoke at the California Republican Assembly annual convention. They asked me to come over there and speak, so I did. Please work better. And I told them, you guys in the California Republican Assembly, you say that you're the conscience of the Republican Party in California. Start recruiting people to run for these county central committee offices. That's what we need to do. How it works is unique in every state. Some states have precinct level voting member slots, some don't. Whatever the case may be, I have a hashtag, Wave Today, hashtag WAYGTDAI. What are you going to do about it? Whatever your political issue is, what are you going to do about it? The best way to get involved, to do something about it, the best way, I believe, to help Donald Trump and demonstrate that you're going to help him moving forward and get him the nomination, despite these bogus indictments, is that you're going to become a voting member of the Republican Party where you live, so that you can also be in a position to become a state convention delegate and get elected to that, and then elect the national convention delegates who are going to get him the nomination. These indictments be damned. So please, what are you going to do about it? Please go to my site, precinctstrategy.com. Get involved. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dan Schultz. Make sure you guys are following him. He's here where I am in Arizona. And as a sixth generation Arizona family, I am so just honored that we have our rightful governor of Arizona, Carrie Lake. Thank you so much for being here, Carrie.
Oh, it's so good
Oh, wow.
to be
Carrie's
here. I
here.
wish the circumstances were better. And Dan, thank you for what you just said. I agree. We need more people to become PCs. And he's right. We the people. He talked about we the people in our beautiful Declaration of Independence. And tonight, we the people are pissed off. And I've got a hashtag for you. Trump is innocent. Our government has turned on us. And while I love this country just as much as everybody on this thread and more than anybody, I hate this corrupt government. And it's our time right now. God placed us here at this moment to step forward and say enough is enough. And we need to not just say we're with Trump and this is bogus and this is outrageous. We need to step up and help. They're attacking him with all of these cases. Every single case they attack him with requires him to bring his attorneys out. And he's got dozens of them. No man should be dealing with this. I just hung up the phone with him, and I'll talk about what we spoke to each other about in a moment.
Oh, wow. We're going to get the inside, guys. Inside scoop from
This is like
Carrie.
war. They call it lawfare because it's like warfare, except they're trying to empty his coffers, empty his personal wealth. And if we really stand with him, we need to go to donaldtrump.com and make a donation tonight. Everybody, whether it's $5, $10, $500, whatever you can afford. Because if we're going to stand with him, we need to put our money where our mouth is tonight. I'm under a lot of pressure trying to fight our botched, bogus, corrupt elections. I know how stressful it is. He's under 100 times as much stress. And I'm just really, right before I came on this Twitter space, I called President Trump tonight to give him my support. And his phone's ringing off the hook. Everyone's supporting him. And he just said, Carrie, I never thought this is what my future would look like when I graduated first in my class at Wharton. I didn't think they'd be indicting me and trying to call me a criminal.
He graduated first in his class at Wharton.
He's okay with taking these hits for us, for we the people, as Dan said. And so I'm with him. It's right. I'm riding right to the end with this fighter, with this warrior, and I hope that everybody on this thread feels the same way.
Carrie, that is so beautiful. We are all behind you. We've been doing pretty much daily spaces about what's happening in Arizona and with President Trump for pretty much a year now. And these are all just grassroots people. We aren't a bunch of influencers, but what we do is we enact people to take action. So one thing we've been doing is hashtag MAGA Money Bomb, just a grassroots hashtag that we've been asking people to support to President Trump. We've also been sharing your website to help people get involved with Saving Arizona. And I'd finally like to ask you, we've been also sharing your wonderful new song, 81 Million Votes My Ass. I would love for you to share a little bit about that.
Well, darn it, every time we say it, we have to put a quarter in the curse jar. I'm sorry about that. For the moms and dads out there who are listening to it, and their kids are like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to say that word. I slipped one day at a speech. I was doing a speech at CPAC, and they invited me to give the keynote speech at the Reagan dinner, and I just was talking about how ridiculous this whole thing is. I mean, we've got this geriatric patient who can't even find his way on a stage or off a stage. He can't find the front door to the White House. He shakes hands with like imaginary people and talks to the Easter Bunny. And they want us to act like this is normal. And I just slipped during that speech and I just said 81 million votes? My ass. I mean, this is ludicrous. Don't insult our intelligence. So I had a great, wonderful producer and songwriter reach out to me afterwards and say, we would love to take your spoken word and put it into a song. And they had produced the song that President Trump did where he was saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And they mixed it with the innocent January 6th political prisoners who every night at the same time sing our beautiful national anthem. And I tell you what, I hear that song and I get goosebumps all over my body. And I thought about it. At first I said, no, I can't do that. And I slept on it. And I thought, why not? They don't want us to speak about the corruption in our elections. That has become taboo. You can talk to our kindergartners about, gender confusion, your sex life, but you can't talk about corruption in our government. And I called them back the next day. I said, you know what? I slept on it. Go ahead and put that song together. If people start to say 81 million votes my ass, they can't censor all of us. They can't stop all of us. And so
That's right.
The requirement I had was I had to approve of the song. And they put it together. We made a few changes to it. It's fantastic. We're about to put a music video out. And all I want from it is
we're all here. We know what's going on.
They can use their voice to speak
we don't like what we're seeing.
2020 election, against our corrupt 22 election.
And no problem.
Whether they're speaking that or singing it, we've got to start putting that out. Use our voice to talk about these elections being as bogus as they are. Or we're gonna be enslaved people. Do we want to be free people, or do we want to be enslaved by a globalist, Marxist system? I know what I want.
So Carrie, one of the angles of lawfare that I've witnessed you going through and I see Trump going through is even the attorneys who step up to represent you are facing bar complaints and other attacks. Can you just touch on that a little bit, like that angle of the lawfare?
I'm glad you asked. Thank you for asking about my attorneys, Kurt Olson and Brian Blem. I'm telling you, they're my heroes. I know, we like to be legal quarterbacks, Monday morning quarterbacks, on Twitter. And I've been critical in my life as well, so I'm not trying to point fingers, but I've heard some criticism and, oh, why aren't they doing this? Brian Blem and Kurt Olson are two of my most favorite people on this planet. Do you know how hard it is to have your entire career to face every day a sanction of bull?
Uh-oh, the audio cut out.
This is just like what President Trump's facing. My attorneys are facing the same thing. Our system is so corrupt. If you dare get involved in a case that
how's the volume of the space?
So important for we the people. The evil will try to sanction you and take your ability to earn a living away from you. And these two stand there and accept it, and they fight it. And I think they're fantastic. It pains me to see what they're going through. They are working hard. I know, we're all working hard. All of our investigators, the volunteers. but I'm so honored to have them, and we have not stopped. We actually are building a new case, and I think it's going to knock the socks off a lot of people. And we're not going to stop. We may not get these judges to do the right thing. Our system is corrupt from top to bottom. I don't think I have to tell you guys that. We're watching it happen tonight. It's corrupt from top to bottom. From when we cast our ballot all the way up to when we try to fight for fairness in our election system. But we're about showing the people what's going on. We may not be able to convince the judges, but I'll tell you what, as more and more evidence piles up and weighs down on their shoulders, eventually one of these guys is going to say, I can't keep ruling in this corrupt manner because the evidence is so overwhelming. I won't be able to walk. I won't be able to face my friends and my family if I continue ruling this way.
Carrie, we were not able to speak even about this for 2.5 years. We were constantly just smeared, we were mocked, we were told, we were deplatformed, we were banned. Now that we're able to speak freely about it, there's so many, we're getting so much different advice about how we need to show up for the next election. And I just want to hear what your thoughts are. We do a lot of spaces with a lot of the, Joel Altman was just here, Clay Parikh, all the time. We talk a lot about the, Cause of America and Mike Lindell's team, and we really want to get our elections back to in person at the precinct on election day. And I just really want the audience to hear what your heart is telling you about what we need to focus on.
Well, I'm going to tell you where my heart is and where my brain is, and it is we need to get back to election day. We vote in person on a paper ballot. We show an ID, and only legal citizens vote. Give me a hands up if you agree with that. I think everybody on this side
Sounds a bit impossible.
That's what I'm fighting for. That's what Kurt, Brian, and I are fighting for. And I pray that we will find a judge who's got a soul and a conscience. And between now and 2024, one of them stands up and looks at this country and says, it's all riding on me and I'm going to do the right thing. I know if I were a judge, I would have already done that, but I don't know that we're going to get that. And so we're going into 24. I believe it's our last election if we don't get President Trump in there. And if we are not able to get the victory we need in court, which I pray we will, and I know God is on our side 100%, then we got to play by the same lousy rules that the other side is playing by. I don't want to do that, but we can't be caught flat-footed. And, we're going to have to do what we have to do, but we're not going to let these communist, Marxist, globalist, sick people take our country down this path. And so that's why we announced that we're going to start putting our efforts into registering voters, and we're going to start, we can't harvest ballots in Arizona, but we're going to start running around and chasing them. And there's not a darn thing wrong with chasing ballots. We're going to work to knock on every door. Hey, we know you got a ballot. We're going to help them. Do you need any help? What can we help you with? Let's walk you down to the mailbox. This is stuff that we were doing, but we're going to do it at a bigger level. What I'd like to see is before then, we get some common sense changes. I know that Senator Borelli and Senator Wendy Rogers, two of my favorite, were up in Mojave County. They signed a resolution in the Senate, I think it's called Senate Concurrent Resolution, I might be wrong on that, basically banning any machine that has components made by our adversaries or outside of our country. We want to follow the rules.
Common sense legislation.
The Department of Defense follows, which you can't have voting machines that are made by China. China has its tentacles, and I'm talking communist. The communist regime is all over our elections. Let me ask any Democrat listening tonight, and I'm sure there's a few of them on here. Are you okay with our adversaries controlling massive parts of our election?
They're just going to say that's unfounded.
I'm okay with that. And we've got to get things back under control to where we, the people, are controlling our elections. So I don't want to have to play all these tricks that the Democrats and the Uniparty are playing, but I don't know what rules we're going to be playing under come 24. And I'm willing to play by the rules we have to play by in order to get somebody who loves this country back in office. So that's where I stand.
Carrie, can I say something really quick for knowledge? I just want to, Carrie, you are honestly, I was a January 6th political prisoner, and I just wanted you to know that there's so many times that we in the community, the J6 community, see you continuing this fight of election integrity, and I just want you to personally be aware that you are providing so much hope to all of us in the J6 community. There are times that we wonder and think everyone else has given up. Did we make this sacrifice? Did I go to prison and leave my family for no reason? These people are still fighting their cases. And then we see you still continuing this fight. And I just want you to know you're providing so much hope in the J6 community. And I wanted to personally thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I just got goosebumps when you told me that, because I think about those men and women all the time. I watched that play out. I had it on C-SPAN because at that point I'd stopped watching all of the other news networks because I know they're just propaganda. And I had the volume turned down. It was interesting, on January 6th, I was sitting at my dining room table looking up at C-SPAN, and I saw the breach of the Capitol, and you know, I've got a good BS meter. And I said to my husband, I go, look at this video. I go, this doesn't make sense. These are not Trump supporters. These people are not Trump supporters. I could see it in their eyes. I could see there was something afoul. And sure enough, now we know what was going on. It wasn't an insurrection, it was a Fedsurrection. We need to release all of that footage. We need to let whatever comes about from that footage happen. And I know that there's been some resistance and pushback to releasing it for security reasons, etc. Let it all out. We the people own that footage, and let these political prisoners out. I can't even believe this is the country I grew up in. I can't even believe we have people who showed up at the Capitol. I believe there must have been 1 million people there from those who I know who were there, and said it was the most beautiful, peaceful thing they've ever taken part in. And they started to wander toward the Capitol. The barriers have been taken down by nefarious actors, and they knew something was going wrong. Many people got pushed in. The doors were opened by people who knew what they were doing. And let's get to the bottom of this. Let's not mince words anymore and act like what happened was legit. This was a complete takedown of the American people. And I mean, honestly, thank God Julie Kelly has been given access to the J6 footage. She's been a total leader on this issue. We hope she can get the truth out. John Solomon as well. When I saw those police officers cutting the tarps that were hanging from the bleachers, they tried to blame true American patriotic citizens for that. It's outrageous. And I love that President Trump says he's going to pardon these people when he gets into office. Unfortunately, I wish they didn't have to wait. I wish we had somebody who could free these men and women before President Trump gets into office. I pray for them every night. I think about their families. You know, grandmas who walked through the Capitol. By the way, we the people own the Capitol. We the people control our government. And they were looking at, they've probably never been to the Capitol before, and they were looking at the beauty of it. And now they are being persecuted for that. Let's go after the real criminals. And I think we all know who they are. It would just take a little bit of effort with some great American patriots to look through that footage. And I'm sure in a couple of days we could comb through all those hours of footage and find the damning video to put the right people behind bars and free up these citizens who did nothing wrong.
Hey, Phenom, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, one second, Dylan. Just since Jen's the co-host, I'm going to go to her, and then I don't know how much time Carrie has. I want to respect her time.
Yeah, please do.
I want to follow up, and if you can take a few hands, Carrie, just let us know. But go ahead, Jen.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for being here. As a conservative and someone who's been heavily involved in politics, I just want to thank you for your bravery and how you've stood up for the truth and kept your faith, but also shown that you can also be strong and stand on the truth even if you're standing alone. And I think you're teaching everyone a very valuable lesson that everyone needs to remember, that if you're standing on the truth, and even if they're telling you you're standing alone, you have to stand there and keep fighting. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep fighting. And if you're running for office, Carrie Lake has set the bar pretty gosh darn high. And we need people who are brave enough to call things out and call things what they are, like the Fedsurrection on January 6th. And the reason they don't want those videos released is because it would exonerate so many people who have been painted and put in jail as criminals, and they're not. And that's not what happened. And Carrie has been brave, and she has stood forward. And I just want to thank you for that. And I really appreciate you, Carrie. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you. And you know what? I think that they're afraid of releasing some of the videos because there might even be elected officials or maybe selected officials who might be implicated in the videos. I don't know. I mean, until we see them, we got to guess. And I don't.
A lot of people are commenting right now about this.
I need to see it with my own eyes. This is surveillance video. The fact that they doctored that surveillance video for Liz Cheney's committee, which was so bogus, to make it look worse, it tells you everything you need to know. And I just pray, I know we've lost some of these people who've been behind bars to suicide. They just haven't been able to take it, and I can't even imagine what they're up against. And I pray that they can hold on until we can truly see justice. And I also ask people here to consider running for office. You know, we've got board of supervisors.
Yes, people, give it a thought. Things are getting real now.
We need to get rid of these people. They're corrupt. But we need some good men and women to come forward and run. And I'm hoping that everyone will consider it. I mean, I decided to run for office. I mean, maybe I was crazy for doing it. And they've ripped me apart. They've tried to destroy my reputation. I lived an exemplary life. I've treated people fair. I've been kind. I've tried to do the right thing. And they will tear you apart when you run for office. But we have to not let that hold us back. We're at a point where who cares what they say about us? We are on, we're on the clock. We're on the time clock right here, and it's ticking. And it's ticking fast. And we need to step forward and run for office and try to save our country. I believe we've got a year and a half left, and if we don't get some people who love this country and love our Constitution in office, I don't know what the future looks like, but it's not a future I'm looking forward to, and I'm doing this for my children. So thank you, Jeff.
Carrie, thank you for mentioning for everyone to get involved. We have been hustling in these spaces, trying to teach everyone how exactly to do that. We should not have 200,000 vacant precinct committee seats in the United States. They should all be filled with Carrie Lake-loving, Trump-loving, American First, MAGA Republicans. And so it's really important and powerful when they hear it coming.
Supposedly, Trump now has 23 indictments.
You were mentioning
what the hell?
Talking about January 6th. Let's remember that we were not going to accept a certification that day, and that is at least I'm not speaking for you, Carrie, but that's our belief here. Why January 6th?
Today's wild.
To prevent our legal ability to really take a look at these elections. And we know that is why President Trump is being indicted now. We heard people like Liz Cheney and others speak plainly that they were going to do
I agree. Becca Truly Stewart. I think she was supporting the idea of ballot harvesting.
To stay out of politics. So we are with you. We're with President Trump, and it's just plain that this is just completely lawfare, and we're trying so hard to get everyone involved. I want to invite everyone to go to Save Arizona Fund to support Carrie Lake, and I just want to give it back to you, Carrie, before we take some more questions.
Well, thank you so much. I'm actually, my phone's starting to die, so I'm going to plug it in. If it died, I pray it doesn't die right now. I'm driving across Georgia right now. I'm going to speak to the Georgia GOP event tomorrow. President Trump will be speaking Saturday, the next day. Mike Pence backed out. I think,
Here's what it is with Pence.
Hard and you're feeling shame, you worry that people might boo you. I understand that. I don't, because I don't have any shame or guilt. But I think that's where he was coming from when he backed out of this event. And so we're going to speak, and we're going to talk about the issues that matter. And any Republican And any, frankly, American who says we need to move on from 2020 and move on from 2022, the elections, and let's just look forward. If you've got a problem, you don't solve it by ignoring it. And so I encourage everybody here to look at these people who are telling you to move on from 2020.
Yeah, dude, we're definitely on with the show now, Kevin Bell.
Absolute corruption in our elections. Look at those people with a huge, healthy dose of skepticism. That's red flags that should be going up when you hear them say that. We have to restore honesty to our elections so that the citizens of this great country can have faith that when they cast their precious, sacred vote, whether they are the most liberal Democrat or the most conservative Republican, that they know that that one legal vote, that legal vote counts. And that's where we need to get to. And, you know, I believe that as Americans, if we love our country, we love our Constitution, we got to recognize right now we are at war. We are truly at war. It's a war of information. It's a war of narrative. And I believe that the CCP's already moved into this country. They're coming across the border. They're pushing their drugs through their narco-terrorist cartels into our country to kill and weaken our young generation. They've got their communist tentacles all over our elections.
When I mention Biden's scheme, I'm just talking about what happened in Ukraine.
They have completely infiltrated our
Sort of keyword limited with the YouTube platform.
We have people coming across our border that we know to be criminals and spies, and we are on the verge of losing this beautiful nation. And I'm telling you, when you leave our country and you go visit abroad, they tell you, please don't let America go down. If America goes down, the whole world's gone. So I just ask everybody here, whether you agree with me politically and President Trump politically, I hope you love this country enough to realize that we're about saving it. We can argue about the other stuff once we save our country. And let's argue about it and dig through it and solve some of the things that we disagree on. But the big point I want you to tell you is we are under attack right now from within. We've got people coming at us on the outside, and if we don't come together and save this country, I worry about the whole world, to be honest. So I talked to President Trump, as I said,
and she's right. The instability of the U.S. is going to affect the rest of the world, as it already has been doing.
For 8 years has been complete and utter lies. And if you don't like President Trump,
Sociopathic lies.
if you think he's too much of this or too much of that, I hate to be the person that tells you you have been a victim of brainwashing by the disgusting media. The media tells us that Hunter Biden's laptop was disinformation, that COVID came from a bat, that January 6th was an insurrection. It's always opposite day. And now they're trying to tell us that Trump, has done something criminal. It's opposite. Guess what came out today? We know for a fact that Biden took payoffs directly, not even through Hunter this time. He took direct payoffs in a pay-to-play scheme. He's owned by the CCP, the Communist Party in China. He's owned by Ukraine. That's why we're going to war in Ukraine and funneling $200 billion of our treasure to Ukraine, to this gross dictator named Zelensky. I mean, the guy looks unstable, and we are throwing everything at him. We need to start looking at these so-called politicians and leaders who want to send more money to Ukraine.
I'm going to mute her for a second. She can be quite a bit of a talker, that Carrie Lake. I'm just going to read to you the things that Trump was apparently indicted on. So I'm just quoting from a biased source, Occupy Democrats. They're quoting from The Guardian. The Guardian just reported that Donald Trump was charged with a whopping 7 federal felonies, including violating the Espionage Act, willful retention of national defense information, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, false statements, and concealment under Title 18 of the U.S. Criminal Code. This means that Trump is facing 2 decades in prison and surely the end of his 2024 presidential campaign. So this is a sign of what we're kind of up against, especially with the powerful contrast and information that was just revealed concerning Biden's dealings. And what we already know to be the true executive authority that Trump held as commander in chief and ability to control information and classification of information. We know that essentially things are just beyond the pale, and that our previously very trusted federal institutions have just shown themselves totally naked in full view, showing the true depths of their depravity. Okay, that's a return here to Carrie Lake's statement.
And here he is. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't go down. And here he is again. He's running again. He's more popular than ever. And they know that even with all of the rigging of the elections, they won't be able to stop him. So now they're going to throw the. And we should have been in jail years ago. Go out to be behind bars. I'm sure that there's a ton of dirt on Obama and many others. I mean, think of this. Bush lied about to do a war that lasted 20 years. He toppled and killed Saddam Hussein because he said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. We know that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. But what we do have coming across our southern border as we speak, every single day, every single minute of every day, is a weapon of mass destruction called fentanyl. And Joe Biden is looking the other way. This administration is looking the other way while it kills hundreds of thousands of our young people. I think people are waking up right now. I'm not going to quit. I will never back down. You know, we'll lawfare them just as hard as they try to lawfare us. This is a hill worth dying on. I do not want to live in a country that is a Marxist country. I want my children to have freedom. And I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that my kids live in a free country. And I hope that everybody on this thread will do the same. And I'm sure there's probably some haters on this thread who are just listening in and probably, you know, taking a paycheck from the other side. I hope somewhere in their soul, in their heart, a flutter happens tonight and they realize what's at stake. Their very ability to make a living is at stake, because when we go down that path,
Unfortunately, they're not so forward thinking.
They call globalism, it's Marxism, it's communism.
That's why we got into the issue in the first place.
Children, everybody on this thread is going to be in trouble, and so we got to stand up and fight right now. We got a year and a half left. I hope every single person running in the Republican primary will back down and say this is outrageous what's happening to President Trump. We support him. Let's get behind President Trump. Get the one man who can stand in that gap and help save this country. Get him elected, and let's start turning this nightmare around.
Hey, Phenom.
A nightmare is what it is.
Just graduated from high school. He's from Iowa. He met you when you came to his hometown, Carrie.
Carrie, I met you when you came to Quad Cities. You had a rally in Bendorf, Iowa. I took a nice picture with you, and I got to meet Colt. I also am good friends with your little buddy Nico. So I just thought I'd come and say hi, and I'm really impressed of what you've done with Arizona. You should be the rightful governor right now. Katie Hobbs is probably the most corrupt governor I've ever seen sit in that governor's office. And also a phenom. U.S. Senate candidate Chris Rose is down there. If you could bring him up, because seriously, I think he would have some good explanation on some of this stuff.
Definitely will. I'm going to try to bring him up. Thank you so much, Dylan. Carrie, you mentioned a minute ago, like if we have some haters listening, and of course, we know that we do, but you make it very clear, you said a minute ago, that this is not a partisan issue. And something that we try to talk about a lot in our spaces is that we aren't going to, the Democrats don't really have a home anymore because it's become so leftist. And they are never going to be able to vote for a true liberal Democrat again if they don't join us in this election integrity fight.
I agree wholeheartedly, and the Democrat Party, by the way, isn't even the same as it used to be. It's gone so far left. I I use the same words, Marxism, but unfortunately, they're not even teaching that in school. Well, actually, they are teaching Marxism in school. They're just not calling it that. It's wokeism. And I'm looking through my book. I just got my first hard copy of my book, which is coming out at the end of the month. And I've been, dealing with just pages of Xerox copies and such. But I got the first hard copy. And at the very end of the book, I talk about how we're fighting for our country, and I dedicate the book to everybody who's in this battle, and I even dedicate it to people who aren't yet in the battle, because they think we're adversaries, they think we're enemies, and we aren't. We're fighting right now for election integrity. I say this every day. I'm fighting for our Democrat friends, I'm fighting for our liberal friends, our conservative friends, our middle of the road friends. If our vote does not count, if it's watered down with hundreds of thousands of bogus ballots, which is what's happening now, hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. They realize they can't beat us when it comes to solutions, because our solutions are common sense. And no matter how many times they call us extremists, the only thing extreme about the policies I put forth for Arizona were that we're extremely worried about our state, our children, our country, and our policies. There's nothing extreme about them, and they have to call us names because they have no leg to stand on, and we're all in this together, and we need some common sense solutions. They're going against people who have the common sense solutions. So, let's make this a country that we can all live in, that we can thrive in, that our children can thrive in, that our liberties and freedoms are strong. And then we can argue about the small stuff. But that was tonight, and I'm thrilled that you would allow me to come on this space. I am maybe a bigger name and voice, but I'm telling you, I'm right there with all of the grassroots. I'm no bigger or smaller than anybody who has been knocking on doors, volunteering, fighting for our country, showing up at LD meetings. We are all in this together. I just have a bigger name and voice, but I am right there with you, and we are going to save our country. I am sure of it.
Beautiful. Carrie, do you have time for a few more questions? I literally have 200 texts.
Oh my gosh. Well, why don't we do one more? They don't all have to be nice. I'll take a hater. If we got a hater out there, I'll take their question.
Is there a hater? Give me a thumbs up if there's a hater down here. There's gotta be. I see you. Come up. I see some haters, Carrie, but nobody's being brave enough.
Oh, really? Shocking.
They don't want the buzz off.
They must be the trolls. You know what? I'm the most. I actually got some data that I am one of the top, like 3 or 4 trolled people on Twitter. And you go and you see the nastiest comments. And years ago, it used to bother me, and now I just laugh, because I typically go and I click on their profile and I go, oh wow, 10 followers, 20 followers. We know what's going on. We know this is a narrative, a battle of narrative, a battle of information. We have to toughen up, take the hits, and just keep plowing through this wall of evil until we can save our country. Let's get one question, and then I'm going to take off.
Well, at least the situation's unmasked.
I know that
Kind of what we're dealing with here.
You were really trying to get in. Do you still want to go?
Well, so I just want to say, Carrie, I met you at Mar-a-Lago, and I just want to say thank you so much for the support for the January 6th defendants.
Espionage Act.
The most January 6th defendants in the country. We got the best January 6th jury verdict a week or 2 ago for a Navy combat veteran, and the fact you're standing up for election integrity means so much to them, as Derek mentioned. So I just want to say thank you.
I do have a question, but I'm sure others do too.
Go ahead, Doc.
Okay, so real quick, to turn back to
comment that just came in. Let's look to people like Paul Gosar. Congressman Paul Gosar was speaking out in support of the J6 prisoners before anybody was willing to stand up. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't even totally aware of what had been going on. and listening to what he told me about what was happening made me brave enough to speak out. And that goes to show you that when you start educating your friends who are afraid to say something, when you start educating them to what's really happening, you give them the information, the what's happening.
She must be in a bad area there. No, where'd you go? Can't hear you.
And just as Senator Cruz didn't stand up to back him, all of this BS happened. And I think if you were watching that day, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, we're just going to go ahead and take a listen to Trump's response. I personally haven't actually heard it yet. So let's see, how will we do that?
So the question was, and I don't know if you
So
can
let's just do that. Let's go to this one here.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country, by far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxes hoax, just like the Russia hoax, and all of the others. This has been going on for 7 years, that they can't stop, because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man, I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out, no collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats. But this is what they do. This is what they do so well. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things. But when you look at what's happened to our country in the last 3 years, we were energy independent. We had a strong military that wasn't woke. We were doing so well. We were respected all over the world. The biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history. And what do? You have a president where an election was taken, got more votes than any sitting president in history by far, never anything even close. And they come after me, because now we're leading in the polls again by a lot, against Biden, and against the Republicans by a lot. But we're leading against Biden by a lot, a tremendous amount. And we went up to a level that they figured the way they're going to stop us is by using what's called warfare. And that's what it is. This is warfare for the law. And we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Our country is going to hell. And they come after Donald Trump, weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the FBI. We can't let this continue to go on, because it's ripping our country to shreds. We have such big problems, and this shouldn't be one of them. It's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax, just like Russia, just like the fake dossier was a hoax. You saw the Durham report, you saw the Mueller report. It was all a big hoax. You had 2 impeachments, and they lost and we won. And we had tremendous support. But that was a hoax and a scam. And now they're doing it again. It's just a continuation, 7 years, even after I'm out. But it's called election interference. They're trying to destroy a reputation so they can win an election. That's just as bad as doing any of the other things that have been done over the last number of years, and especially during the 2020 election. So I just want to tell you, I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we will fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years. It would be wonderful if we could devote our full time to making America great again. And that's exactly what we did. But now, again, our country is in decline. We're a failing nation. And this is what they do. I'm an innocent man. We will prove that again. 7 years of proving it. And here we go again. Very unfair. But that's the way it is. I just want to thank everybody. We are doing something very special for our country. We're putting America first. I always put America first. And that's why we were in a position. Unfortunately, that position is no longer valid because they've done such a poor job. But we're in a position where we're going to make America great again. I'm innocent, and we will prove that very, very soundly and hopefully very quickly. Thank you very much.
Yep, hopefully very quickly. Continue to take additional slings and arrows. All right. Let's see.
Alrighty, everyone.
Oops. Turn that off. Okay, so I'm going to go over this Gateway Pundit article. Biden's DOJ tried to bribe attorney for Trump's valet in exchange for testimony against Trump, clearly a legal act that threatens Jack Smith's case against Trump. On Thursday, The Guardian reported that Joe Biden's DOJ attempted to bribe the attorney for Trump valet driver in exchange for testimony against Trump. Clearly, this is an illegal act, and it should threaten the case against President Trump. The only criminal act in this entire case is the action by Biden DOJ. These people are SICK, though we got evil there. President Trump posted this on Truth Social on his criminal judicial abuse. Shocking. One of the top prosecutors at the Department of Injustice was reportedly so obsessed with getting Trump that he tried to bribe and intimidate a lawyer representing someone being targeted and harassed to falsely accuse and fabricate a story about President Donald J. Trump, a crime that doesn't exist. This criminal and salacious act from within the DOJ has brought shame and embarrassment to this once great and respected institution. Because of this, there is now extreme turmoil inside the DOJ. A top overzealous and dishonest DOJ prosecutor offered the witness lawyer an important judgeship in the Biden administration if his client flips on President Trump. Oh, wow. A judgeship was offered. Who has done nothing wrong. The highly respected lawyer was incensed and disgusted at this corrupt and illegal offer. The fake case against me must be immediately dropped, and the inspector general should launch an investigation into this and the many other all too obvious wrongdoings and crimes taking place at the DOJ and FBI. So this guy, he's not mincing his words. He's not gonna, just lay down and take it. He's fighting. Then we have a tweet shown by Hugo Lowell, lawyer for Trump's valet under scrutiny in a Mar-a-Lago docs case, has alleged in a letter that top prosecutor Jay Bratt brought up his application to be a judge when trying to gain the valet's cooperation, per People Familiar, Guardian exclusive. So the Guardian reports, the lawyer for Donald Trump's valet under scrutiny in the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation has submitted court papers describing a meeting at which top federal prosecutor brought up his application to be a judge when they tried to gain the valet's cooperation last year, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The allegation, described in a letter filed under seal with the chief U.S. judge in Washington, James Boasberg, could affect the investigation just as prosecutors are considering whether to bring charges. At issue is the incident that took place last year around November when prosecutors were trying to gain the cooperation of valet Walt Nauta, who has been under scrutiny because prosecutors suspected he helped former president conceal classified documents that have been subpoenaed. Nauta has already spoken to prosecutors in the investigation when they called his lawyer, Stanley Woodward, and summoned him into the meeting at Justice Department headquarters as an urgent matter that they were reluctant to discuss over the phone. When Woodward arrived at the conference room, he was seated across from several prosecutors working on the investigation, including the chief of counterintelligence section, Jay Bratt, who explained that they wanted Nauta to cooperate with the government against Trump, the letter said. Nauta should cooperate with the government because he had given potentially conflicting testimony that could result in false statements charged, the prosecutor said, according to the letter. Woodward is said to have demurred, disputing that Nauta had made false statements. Bratt then turned Woodward and remarked that he did not think that Woodward was a Trump guy and that he would, quote, do the right thing, before noting that he knew Woodward had submitted an application to be a judge at the Superior Court in Washington, D.C. that was currently pending, the letter said. So this is just one of many hot stories on the press here at the Gateway Pundit. As I'm sure they're likely to keep coming. Just so much news today. It's like amazing. Let's just go back to the Twitter space here.
To the grassroots, we own this country. We are this country. And we've taken the Republican Party out of the hands of these globalists, and now they're trying to grasp and claw it back from us. We're not going to let them do that. We are the Republican.
Okay, while Carrie can cook, I think they kind of let her speak a little bit too much. They got to allow some either pushback or questioning or something. She's just sort of lecturing, and that's not. That does make for great space material. And then the connection's kind of crap.
I'm in this. I'm not in this for a political career. Believe me, my life was a lot easier before politics, just like President Trump's was. I'm sure just like every one of our lives were. But we're not looking for easy right now. We're looking for preserving our country. And that's going to be a difficult road ahead, but I know all of us are strong enough to do it. God bless everyone of the people on this thread.
God bless.
All of our beloved citizens in this country. I love you guys.
Thank you, Carrie. Be safe, and hopefully we'll keep watching, and we'll keep waiting for you to join us again. Well, guys, Carrie Lake, the real, legitimate governor of Arizona. That was just quite a surprise that she was going to join us today. I know there are many of us that wanted to speak with her, and I'm so sorry. It's easier. It's not as easy as it looks when you have, like 200 text messages and people all have great questions. I know all of you had amazing questions that you wanted to ask, and I wanted you to be able to as well. But thank you so much for being here. It was so last minute.
Okay, moderator. I think you could have took questions.
But I have heard on the back channel that we are going to do it again, and so I will definitely welcome all of you again.
Well, Phenom, let me just say for everyone in the room, you crushed it. All of your comments and questions, the way you ran the room. I know what it's like running the backside of a room like this. You just absolutely crushed us, and I recorded the space. I got all of it, so we're good.
That baby dog. Phenom, I'm sorry, but I got echo dog. Phenom, I am A, so proud of you, and B, so happy that they chose this room to drop into. Because it's about freaking time that we start standing up and building up our own. The reason I asked her the media question in particular is that what you have been building in these spaces, I'm just glad to see it rewarded. I thought your questions were on point. I thought the way you handled it was on point all the way around. Congratulations, Phenom. Could not be more thrilled. And thank you for letting us be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, hey, don't thank me. Let's thank Carrie Lake, who cares enough to just find some Arizona girl, jump in and talk to us. So, but today is, that was a happy event, but today is a sad day. What's happening to President Trump. I can't imagine the pressure that he is under and that Carrie Lake is under as well. I thought it was funny that she wanted to take a question from a hater. I thought that was fantastic. I thought I brought someone up, but then he disappeared, so we can plan that for next time. But yeah, she's like his #1 fighter, and I'm really so glad to see her just still going strong all the way. It would be so easy to drop out with the amount of just hate and disrespect that Carrie Lake gets. And a lot of us as Trump supporters, we get it too. I know many of us have noticed that some of the AstroTurf campaigns, for whatever reason, they don't really only hate on President Trump, but they hate on Carrie Lake as well. And I know many of us, I know I am constantly called an insurrectionist for supporting Carrie Lake and Donald Trump. We're called election deniers.
Phenom, I'm going to echo what Dustin and what Doc said. I thought you did a tremendous job moderating the space, handling so many requests with 2,400 people, I think it was at tops, which is insane. And it's, to echo Dustin's sentiment, I am glad that they chose our space to get in, because this represents who America is. and this is not some kind of ulterior agendaed space trying to undercut or subvert or, you know, get a different angle or a different spin on who really the, you know, America First movement is. And so I really appreciate you in that regard and the way that you
I was going to peek in on this here. So here we have a tweet by Caitlin Collins. Trump attorney Jim Trustee joins for his first interview since Trump was indicted. And so here we have an explanation of the charges.
Now, we haven't been provided with the indictment yet. What we have right now is essentially a summons, which is a replacement for a warrant, right? Normally, indictments are accompanied by a warrant where there's an arrest. Here, we've received a summons from the Department of Justice asking us to be at the courthouse Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
And does it say how many charges there are against your client?
It doesn't perfectly mirror an indictment, but it does have some language in it that suggests what the 7 charges would be. Not 100% clear that all of those are separate charges, but they basically break out from an Espionage Act charge, which is ludicrous under the facts of this case, and I can certainly explain it, and several obstruction-based type charges, and then false statement charges, which are actually, again, kind of a crazy stretch just from the facts as we know it. So there's a lot to pick at eventually from the defense side, but that appears to be the charges, and it appears to be something that will get off the ground on Tuesday.
Okay, so you're confirming it is 7 charges. You said there's an Espionage Act charge. Is there one on the willful retention of documents?
Yeah, that's it. We're talking 18 U.S.C. 793. And then there's several 18 U.S.C. 1512, 1519. I know it's great television, right, to cite these numbers. But the bottom line is it breaks down to the retention charge, as you would call it, obstructions, and false statement.
And is there a conspiracy charge in here?
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me right now. Again, this is not biblically accurate because I'm not looking at a charging document. I'm looking at a summary sheet. So there's language in there that might actually be reflecting a single count instead of 2, but I think there was a conspiracy count as well.
And so that means there could be other indictments. Have you been told that anyone else was indicted here?
We weren't advised of anyone else being indicted.
Oh, that's a good question.
I have a theory that maybe some of the outrageous misconduct has affected the equation in some other case, potential target. But bottom line is right now all we know about is our client.
What's your theory?
Well, over the last 24 hours, it's become public that members of the Department of Justice, led by Jay Bratt, who is a pivotal figure in this investigation, this is the guy who wanted to do a raid before they even had a subpoena out, he apparently, along with 5 other people in his presence from DOJ, extorted a very well-respected, very intelligent lawyer from Washington, D.C., saying essentially, if you want this judgeship that's on Joe Biden's desk, you have to flip your guy to cooperate against the President of the United States. That should be a headline.
Do you have evidence of that? I know that
world.
that's been something that Republican allies of Trump have been saying, but do you have evidence that
Uh-oh, she's not a Republican.
This is no political talker. This is something that was reported at the time by the attorney. It has been basically sworn to by him. He's written a letter that's been submitted to a U.S. District Court judge confirming it happened. And I think it'll be really interesting to find out whether DOJ, whether the 5 people that sat in the room and watched that extortion have threads of text messages or emails where they comment about that. So we're going to want some discovery about just how far-ranging this criminal activity was by a prosecutor. And think of the irony. Once again, you've got prosecutors saying, we're going after this guy because of obstruction. You know, that's their theoretical distinction from Delaware. While they literally obstructed justice. They literally tampered with a witness in the fall of 2022.
She's like, let's just calm that down. We can't say that on national TV. We can make these kind of accusations. Calm it down now.
To the indictment here, we don't have any evidence of what you're claiming there. I know that the legal team has been
Read her mind.
That's what you're saying. I'm taking you at your word on that. We don't have any evidence of that ourselves. I just want to note for our audience. But I want to get back to the indictment here because this is the breaking news tonight from your own client. How did you find out about this? Did you hear from the special counsel, Jack Smith? How did you get this summons that you're referencing?
Yeah, we got an email from the guy who actually did the extortion. I think that was a cute little message from DOJ that they're not gonna worry about their own dirty house. And so we got an email that basically had a summons, an invitation to have a call to kind of work on some of the logistics. And we'll work on those logistics. There's a lot to kind of figure out between the U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Secret Service to make this as smooth as possible, make it safe for the public, and make it efficient in the courthouse. So that's all coming. It would be nice to actually have a copy of the indictment, but we don't have that quite yet.
When do you
I guess
expect
they're
that
kind of
you'll get
holding
a?
that hostage until we agree?
When do you expect you'll get a copy of that indictment?
Sometime between now and Tuesday afternoon. If they want to continue to play games, they'll give it to us at 3:01 p.m. Tuesday.
What was the former president's reaction when you told him that he had been indicted in this case?
Yeah, it's a combination.
Yeah, read her
When
facial expression.
Anytime you advise a client that they've been indicted, when they know it's just fundamentally wrong, you
A little smirk just went there on her face.
And say, my client's innocent, and then after the trial, we're going to win the appeal. Well, here he is innocent. I mean, everything about this case is absolutely rotten. The misconduct that we've documented for an attorney general who hides behind Jack Smith. And so his reaction was personal, but it wasn't. You know, he thought about it, he said, this
Eyebrows
is a
lift.
sad day. I can't believe I've been indicted. You know, those are kind of my summary words of what he had to say. But at the same time, he immediately recognizes the historic nature of this. This is crossing the Rubicon. You know, when we have a weaponized DOJ serving
Agreed.
as the Praetorian Guard for the Democratic Party, for the incumbent administration, and the Attorney General, who is in charge of Jack Smith, hides from meetings, hides from conversations, and just says, go talk to Jack.
Well, Jack Smith
is a crazy new world.
Here goes
Jack
defense.
Smith is the special counsel. He acts independent. That's why he was appointed in this. But he was in that meeting that you were in on Monday at the Justice Department, we are told. Did he say anything to you in that meeting? Was there any indication that these charges were coming?
Now, I'm not going to talk about the meeting, but to go back to your premise there, Caitlin, this is not an independent counsel statute. That changed. This is special counsel. They are still answerable to the Attorney General. Now, for whatever political reason, maybe it's all about Delaware, where apparently cases go to die, everything that the Attorney General should be doing in terms of transparency.
You're invoking the snake eyelid membrane.
Press conference to announce the president's guilt. It's continued with the misconduct that we've documented, and it's not just the smoking gun that I've mentioned in terms of extortion. Now, obviously, you got Tim Parlatore there. He can tell you about the grand jury abuse that he went through directly. That's pretty solid evidence. And there's a whole bunch of other stories of mistreating, intimidating, browbeating witnesses, and gamesmanship. So
I know those are your allegations,
we're gonna come out smoking on
Jim,
this thing.
and I know that's why you went to the Justice Department on Monday to air your grievances about how this investigation has been conducted. But again, this is historic. You're right. Your client has been indicted. He's the first former president to face federal charges. What day did you get the target letter letting you know that he was indeed a target in this investigation?
She looks like she's like suppressing a yell or something. There's something about the way she moves her mouth. It's like she's angry.
When did you get the formal letter? Because that changes it.
I'm not going to get into that. The internal communication stuff is not something I'm comfortable throwing out because it's between the attorneys, okay?
Well, you feel comfortable coming on and
Oh,
making
there we go.
these
She's angry.
allegations.
Look at the eyebrow.
Jim, you feel comfortable making these allegations about who's on the special counsel's team. Why can't you say when they sent you the target letter?
Because I have no interest in reporting on those types of facts of communication, so sorry.
Which legal team will be with Trump when he shows up on Tuesday? Will he show up on Tuesday?
Excuse me, ma'am. Attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, he's going to show up. Look, he knows he's innocent. He knows this is garbage. He knows there's fundamental flaws with each one of the counts that they're apparently putting in this indictment. And he knows that the whole process, starting from the archivist, was a corrupt and politicized one. So he's not shrinking from the fight. He's disappointed that this is where we are as a country and this is where the Department of Justice is. But he's not, you're not going to see him, hide in Scotland. He's going to be ready to handle this case and help his attorneys fight it. And we'll see. It'll make some excitement to see who shows up at the table on Tuesday, I guess.
So it's not clear which attorneys will be with him. Is that what you're saying? Because so far it's been you, John Rowley, Lindsay Halligan handling this.
Yeah, we'll see where it all goes.
Yep, we'll see where it all goes. I think the space might be over now.
Arizona, that ties into Georgia, that ties into Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, and several other states as well. So to give you guys some relief and a little bit of good news, when I said yesterday, shit gets real tomorrow, that's what I meant. As soon as business day open, that was on Jason Nearez's desk, and that they believe it is a lock, like an open and shut bribery, conviction, like prosecution, incarceration. Okay, so I did want to mention that.
Well, let's go. And it's about freaking time. Would be like my 2 comments to that. I want to reset everybody. Welcome. We had Carrie Lake in the space to talk about. She just got off the phone with President Trump, jumped into space and gave us a breakdown. She says President Trump is in good spirits. He's in a fighting mood. He's not backing down 1 inch. We appreciate that. She also said that she's planning to come to Miami. I think Jen and I we're gonna make the trip there. I haven't done a live protest since January 6th. Been turned up, right? Right? You guys heard me speak out against it, right? Like doing it in a lot of ways. But you know what? We gotta show up. We gotta show up and turn out. And I don't know we're gonna do anything official, right? I don't think we're gonna try to do a stage or anything big. But just show up and show President Trump when the streets are lined with patriots when he comes here.
Hey, Don.
Right?
How's it going?
I think that's the least we can do. We have a Rockstar panel. We've been pushing people to go to precinctstrategy.com, get involved in the party apparatus. If we want to get shit done like I was talking about, if we want to get Republican municipalities to take actual action, right? Boycott, divest, and sanction New York City. It's a no-brainer at this point. I can't believe no one's done it. But if you want to get that action done, you guys show up and be part of the official party apparatus. And precinctstrategy.com is there. We've got Dan Schultz here, who's been the architect of that strategy for a long time. We're thrilled to have him. We're thrilled to have all of you here to talk about what's going on. One ground rule tonight. You know everybody is feeling passionate, right? Everybody's feeling fiery. Do not get up here and Fed post, right? Do not feed the feds by getting up here and talking about violent revolution and we need to halt peace. None of that will be tolerated at all for 1 second in here. You get up, we will bounce you off the stage. I won't block you, right? Like, it's nothing personal, but I've read too many J6 cases where the reason that they were denied, right, or that they were held in pretrial detention, or that their sentences were elongated, was because of stuff they said on social media. Often twisted out of context, but just don't do it. Don't cross that line. And for your own protection, if I hear you doing it, I will drop you down.
Yeah, and some of those are still in probation, so thank you, Dustin.
Hey, Dustin, I was gonna you just mentioned New York City to divest it, right? Yeah. Yep. So you don't have to worry about that because they're doing it to themselves, just with their own policies. I used to live there for 10 years, and I left there a few years ago, and I've seen what's happened to it, and it's going down by itself. So I agree, yes, we can actively try to do it as well, but they're doing it to themselves. I mean, it's just hilarious. I did have a few comments. If I go ahead.
Real quick, I'll turn right back over to you, Paul. But here's the thing. Yes, they are absolutely the wealth is flaying. Policies in New York are horrific. But you know what? This small group of attorneys has laid waste to the Republican apparatus. The NRA, Steve Bannon, We Build the Wall, Jen and I, Donald Trump, pick anybody, and it's the same group out of New York City, and we can take action. And it's more than that, because more than just the effect. Like, I don't care if Derek Evans goes to some town in some coal town in West Virginia with 500 people and get them to pass it. I will get that in the national news. I will get that there is a movement of Republicans who are standing up against the lawfare, and I will get the press to cover it because they will melt down over this happening to New York City. There's no excuse not to do it, and anyway, I agree with you though.
And I agree, yeah, do it completely, do everything necessary. I was just more kind of joking about the fact that they're helping us in this cause, whether they want to or not, And it's crazy because where I live, I'm
That's pretty much evident, yeah.
And, I've seen it. Everyone's leaving the city. They're even leaving the suburbs because it's getting too expensive and too crazy. But the city has just become a hellhole with the crime and the filth, and then with the illegals being set up in hotels there, and now they're busting illegals out there, hotels up here. It's just insane. I was gonna make two comments. One about first about the Kerry Lake interview. That's fantastic, and Phenom did a pro job on it. Like I would think she would. I'm sure these spaces are just going to grow in size and legitimacy. I was in another space that was technically bigger, but I don't believe that most of the listeners there are real. It was a Michael Cohen one, and it's interesting, but it's not, this I consider a lot more sophisticated. Those are more like a pissing contest and, like you say, ulterior motives, or like other people said, ulterior motives. So, it's just, I don't think those have legs really to them. But with Carrie Lake, I would have actually asked her a semi-critical question, and it was going to be about her faith in Charlie Kirk, and depending on his analysis of things, obviously he's done a lot great for the movement, and I like him, but he was wrong about a lot of things having to do with her election.
I tend to think that the bigger fish are overseas.
I watched a lot of his videos about it, so it's something I would have asked her about. Not saying that she shouldn't have faith in him, but like what kind of, I would have asked her for a criticism if she had any. Not trying to be mean or anything, just something like that. And then with the whole Trump thing, I think I'm not fazed by this at all. I think he expected all of this to happen. He anticipated it. He knew it was going to happen. I think everyone should look at it that way. All these things are going to go through. They're going to go through the process. They're going to try to drag him through the mud. I have plenty of experience of being falsely accused of things, and I've built a tough skin for it. And this is just the world we live in. You're going to be attacked no matter what you do, even if you do the right thing. Just keep being yourself, do what's right, and you'll get through it. The one thing they're trying to do is scare you into stopping, into like oppressing you into stopping, and make you feel like there's no hope. And as long as you keep doing what's right, you'll get through it. Groups like this are great support, and I think he's going to get through it. And then it comes down to the election. And I think the only other thing I would have said to Carrie and asked her about, and ask everyone about here, is just about the how do we vote in this election?
Remind me what happened in 1871.
Like I've heard some people say that just vote in person, and I think that's the ideal. If everyone did that, and we can paper ballots counted by humans, none of this machine stuff. But I just don't think that'll work for this cycle. I think we need to hit on all sides. Early voting, voting by mail. I think if it's just in person, a lot of these Democrat-heavy areas will be, they'll disenfranchise voters by just making the in-person voting miserable, with machines failing and all this other nonsense. So I'm just curious about the strategies, and I'm guessing it's different depending on what location you're in. So, those are my comments for now.
Well, Carrie had a tweet out, not too long ago about getting rid of mail-in voting, and maybe I can invite some of our elections friends. Maybe we can get even Kevin to come in here. Clay, Joel just spent today with Michael.
I see.
He had to leave though, but maybe we can get him back in here. But Carrie did say ballot chasing and not ballot harvesting.
Right, where it's legal, right? I have that.
Where it's, but we definitely, it makes no sense. Like, people don't get disenfranchised because they vote on election day. Voting on election day, they got scared because, oh my gosh, like we're there, we don't know how many people are going to show up, and how are we going to go against, we don't have all the data for certain people. Like, that's what happened in 2016. So it's absolutely, in my opinion, and the people that I do this with, to never encourage somebody to go from voting in person and on election day, regardless of paper ballots or not, to suddenly stay home, vote early, and go by mail. I think people need to stand up and vote on election day, and we need to get out those low propensity voters, and if they're not going to show up, we do need to chase those ballots.
I guess what I would say is if there are people that perhaps can't tolerate waiting longer, because I think that was one of the issues.
It was never a conversation that we really had before, people.
I agree. Yeah. And I think one of the problems in Arizona was that there were people that showed up, and it was 50% of the machines failed at certain locations, and so people had to wait.
Yeah, that nonsense can happen all over again, unfortunately.
Stuff like that, and they just couldn't do it, so they were disenfranchised. So if you want to vote in person and you can't spend all day at the polls, if something goes wrong, then perhaps that's those are the people that you consider at least doing it in your way.
I'll say this, Paul. We have plenty of time to figure out between now and
No, we don't. No, sir. We do not have plenty of time. We're on the clock now, buddy.
And frankly, we're going to follow Trump's lead on that, right? Whatever the Trump
The Trump team has been very good in stopping this stuff. That's why he's not in office, sir.
I want to touch on this because I've been doing a lot of thinking about it.
Too many Benedict Arnolds and backstabbers. Okay, actually, we're just going to check out this other video here briefly. It's been a while since I had seen anything from Matt Whitaker. He was like the interim director of national intelligence for like a brief period of time, and I really wanted him to be permanent. Was he the director of national intelligence? Or was he? No, I don't think he was that. He may have been in a different position. I think he may have been in Barr's position.
First of all,
his volume's way too loud here.
Just your initial reaction.
Just turn his volume down here. It's been a while since we heard from him. So Trump apparently shows an interview that he has on Fox.
To what the former president just said, this is a dark day for this nation.
Yeah, Harris, good to be with you. It's a really sad day for our country. I mean, if you believe in the rule of law and if you believe in equal justice under the law, this should concern you because, you know, we have what appears to be a completely political prosecution of the former president,
right,
the current
right, Don
leader
Frost.
for the Republican nomination. And, you know, it was a rush to get him indicted. You know, you look at the other cases, compare this to Hunter Biden's case, Joe Biden's case, Vice President Pence's, and even, you know, Hillary Clinton. And I can't see how the Department of Justice isn't explaining why they're doing this case and none of these other cases that I just mentioned. It's really a sad day, Harrison, and I think it's the stuff of banana republics, quite frankly.
You know what? I have to point out what the former president is saying about that garage with the papers strewn all over and the lack of classified document security at a current president's home. All of that is true. We have pictures of where the Corvette was parked.
Yeah.
We know that they found documents that weren't even told to the American public, weren't even told to anybody outside the Biden circle for months after they had been first found at the Penn Wharton University Penn with his name on it, that place at the campus, and then 2 of his homes, and then it was like an Easter egg hunt. I mean, every place you looked, there were more documents. The president isn't wrong about complaining about that and saying that this is not fair.
No, and the other thing that Donald Trump also has on his side is he was president. He could have declassified these documents. That is going to have to be, I guess, litigated now. But also, you know, they were negotiating with the National Archives. They were trying to resolve this situation. And so it's very frustrating, I'm sure, for the president and his team to think that they were resolving this presidential records issue, and all of a sudden the FBI comes in and raids, and now we have a special counsel appointed by Biden's attorney general, really what appears to be doing political work under the, you know, auspices of a special prosecutor. It is you know, it's very concerning. You know, I join a lot of Americans that kind of have a sinking feeling that this may be, you know, the best days of the United States may be behind us if this is how our political, you know, climate is going to be.
Well, hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, this is a very grave time, a true crossing of the Rubicon, and with a lot of irony and just, I don't know what to say, really. So he's quoting different pundits. He has his message here. I don't think this one appeared in the Gateway Pundit article that I read to you guys. So it's a series of truths that Trump made 3 hours ago. Was this his initial announcement? Let's see. So guys, okay, 7 hours ago he has "Make America Great Again," and then 3 hours ago, I guess he finds out. So he has his 3 pages. The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden and his 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, in which is secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. Page 2. I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States who received far more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country and is currently leading, by far, all the candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in polls at the 2024 presidential election. I'm an innocent man. This is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. We are a country in serious and rapid decline, but together we will make America great again. So those are his messages there. Pretty well timed, pretty well worded. And he had this video statement. He knows what he's doing, or he has a good team behind him. These videos. And then he has this message to all my supporters. I can promise you the best is yet to come. This is the thing that his kids were saying too. The best is yet to come. And this has been memed and theorized and kind of hopiumed to death. So then we have him quoting Victor Davis Hanson. So just check out this briefly here.
Matthew Whitaker just said something that I want to start with. He said that, what we found out about the FBI investigation into President Trump was a hoax. But it was worse than that, Victor. What we found out was that they had been politicized, weaponizing things against this former president from the top levels of the FBI. Your thoughts?
That's exactly right, Harrison. It was even worse than that, because we now know that Hillary Clinton hired a foreign national, which is a felony, to work on a campaign, and she hid those payments to Christopher Steele through the DNC, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS, and she destroyed materials that were under subpoena, and that there was no FBI reaction at all. We know that James Comey knew that the dossier was fraudulent because his agency had offered $1 million to find one credible iota of evidence, and when they couldn't do it, he still tried to delude a FISA justice by presenting that as evidence successfully, so to get a writ. So this is a sad day, because you see what it does here. It destroys all the credibility of the United States as a moral arbiter of democracy and constitutional government. How can
that's an important point. That's an important point, because other countries around the world are looking at what's happening in the United States, and they're just like having their jaw agape, or they're snickering, or whatever.
Africa or South America, what they should be doing as far as jurisprudence and the rule of law. Every aspect of this Biden-Trump is asymmetrical. Trump was a president, he had that prerogative to declassify. Biden was a vice president, he didn't. Trump had only had those documents for less than 2 years. Joe Biden knew that he had them for 6 years and never told anybody. Nobody did anything about them. Mar-a-Lago is more secure than Joe Biden's garage. Donald Trump doesn't have a son who is erratic and is trying to weaponize or capitalize the knowledge of his father about government and his future trajectory as a political candidate for the Biden consortium profit. So it's just outrageous, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a baton relay, because we're going to see Alvin Bragg get the baton, and then we're going to see Letitia James get the baton, and then Miss Willis down in Georgia. And it's designed to destroy the person who's leading in the polls against Joe Biden. That's what countries abroad do that are unstable and corrupt. The existing administration uses the powers of government to indict his likely opponent or possible opponent in the next election.
Talk to me about the players in this. I mean, you mentioned a lot of names at the FBI and those previous investigations, but we don't know as much about the current, team looking at this. What we do know is that the documents, as you said, were there for 2 years, and that there was some sort of cooperation going on at the beginning of this between the former president and those people who were investigating.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what's happened in the Biden administration, they are using the power of special counsel for political purposes. This is the second time they've done it. Remember that we got Robert Mueller because James Comey leaked a private conversation with the President of the United States, used a third party so that the media sensationalism would prompt a special counsel who just happened to be Robert Mueller, a former acquaintance. And then he ate up 22 months for nothing of the Trump administration. Now we're doing a replay. with this special counsel. And this is even more egregious because, again, we have the President of the United States who did the same thing but to a greater degree, and this special counsel or the other special counsel doesn't seem to be saying anything. And I'm really worried about the reputation of the government abroad, but half the country has lost faith in the integrity of the United States government, and that's very dangerous in a democracy.
Indeed. Yep. Very dangerous. And then he basically quotes Stephen Miller. It is not a coincidence that this indictment comes out the same day that we have credible evidence of a bribery scheme that goes all the way up to Joe Biden. Yeah, so you have that angle of the whole situation as well. It's like a situation where if this news didn't exist, then the media would be sort of expected to cover the issue with Biden more. But with the perfect timing, now CNN, Newsweek, Vox, Glamour, Vogue, New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, they're pretty much going to be running the Trump indictments 24/7. And then I guess they're also going to talk about climate change and what's happening in New York. Or maybe they'll talk about the UFO body, the 10-foot creatures in Las Vegas. There's a lot of crap in the air that they can talk about to protect their man Biden. So it's a remarkable time here. This is the true intensity of the info war. So anyone who has a platform, I have a relatively tiny one. I'm sure some of you individuals also have platforms. This is a time where you put your voices out there to just shift the balance of the bias, put out contrasting information to the main narrative that is going to be displayed everywhere to try to bury what's going on with Biden's history from 2017 and what's going on with the son. Hopefully, in the end, it doesn't matter because there are other powers available, either through God directly or through via some other means of secret handshakes and meetings and well-intentioned people who already knew what was going to happen by the year 2023 and start taking steps years ago, maybe over a decade ago, to begin to stop this. I guess we'll all find out as time marches forward. Trump, he hasn't really made any new statements. He's pinned this. He put this up 20 minutes ago. He's quoting Robert Jeffries. He's going to be a GOP nominee. They know he will be the next president of the United States, and they know they can't defeat him at the ballot box. So it's just typical stuff there. Let's see if the spaces are showing any interesting things now.
But there's a great site I found in the summer of 2022. Happen to see it on Twitter. I put the link on my homepage at precinctstrategy.com. SaveYourRepublic.org. SaveYourRepublic.org. I don't even know who these people are, but what they created is fantastic. If you want to be a ball player, a poll worker, and we never have enough Republicans do it, go to SaveYourRepublic.org, drill down on the map, click on your state, drill down to your county or town. It varies from state to state, and they'll have the directions for you to become a poll worker. Poll workers get paid. I've always been a poll watcher for the Republican Party because I've been a precinct committee. And the other thing I want to mention is
so you're just giving instructions on how to become more involved. I'll go ahead and close down this stream, but I enjoy sharing this YouTube space stream with you guys. And if any other insane breaking news occurs, I may wind up going live again. Just kind of went live at the spur of the moment. But otherwise, I hope you all have a nice evening. And stay safe, stay wise, and stay patriotic for the Republic. Hopefully these aren't the last days of it. Peace.